If you have a loved one in your life who's been traumatized by overcooked broccoli, today I bring you a recipe that's going to help you teach them to overcome this trauma and to actually start loving broccoli again. I want the natural flavors and crunch and texture of the broccoli to shine, so I'm only going to blanch it. The flavor for the risotto is going to come from a mushroom broth. I'm going to use dried shitake mushrooms and portobellos that I'm going to fry later on. For the portobellos, we're going to actually remove the stems, which we're going to add to the broth later, and using a spoon, we're going to remove the gills from the underside. After removing the gills from the mushroom, I'm going to clean them with some running water, and I'm going to give them a nice patting down, flattening them and making sure they're as flat and round as possible. Then I'm going to bring a pan to high heat, and I'm going to place the mushrooms on top so they can start getting some color on them. The shiitake broth has been boiling, and I'm going to remove some of the gunk from it using a strainer. And I'm going to start preparing the broccoli by cleaning it first using hot water to remove the cuticular layer. Afterwards, I'm going to place it in some cold water so that way I can start washing all of the florets. Now we're going to prepare the broccoli. We're going to remove the individual florets from the stems, and we're going to make sure to keep the stems because that's also going to be used to give flavor to our risotto. After removing the florets from the stem, I'm going to cut the stem into equal-sized pieces as the florets, and I'm going to transfer them to a bowl so I can easily transfer this to a boiling pot of water. The idea is to blanch these pieces of broccoli, so we're not going to keep them in there for long. Following, I'm going to start preparing my aromatics, so I'm going to dice up some onions, and I'm going to peel some garlic and coarsely chop it as well. This is going to act like the flavor base for my risotto. After cutting up the onions and the garlic, we're going to add it to the pan where we were previously cooking the shiitake mushrooms. Use the leftover moisture from the aromatics to remove the flavor from the bottom of the pan, and afterwards I'm going to add some oil to lightly fry the onions and garlic. Next, I'll start preparing my broccoli florets and stems, removing each pair because I'm going to cut the florets into slices while I'm going to cut the stems into cube-sized pieces. Now, the stems are usually tougher than the florets, so I'm going to add them with the onions and garlic and give them a quick stir fry to loosen them up a little bit for this risotto. Finally, I'm going to add some rice and lightly fry the rice with my aromatics, just to give it a little bit of color. We're going to start adding our mushroom shiitake broth very slowly into the pan, and we're going to revolve constantly in order to remove and extract all the starches from the rice. After having cooked the risotto for about 10 minutes and the rice is already nice and soft, I'm going to start preparing the mushrooms and the broccoli. We're going to cut some of the mushrooms into slices and some into dices, and we're going to add that to the risotto mix. We're also going to add some of the broth and some of the broccoli florets to cook up the broccoli florets just a little bit. Finally, we're going to have our final product and we can start plating it. I'm going to add about 2 spoons worth of it to it. And I'm going to add some of the fresh broccoli florets as garnish, as well as some of the mushrooms that I had previously cut up. I'm going to add some salt and some olive oil, which I think pairs fantastically with broccoli. And this is the final recipe that aims to basically enhance the flavor, the natural flavors of the broccoli. So we're going to have that crunchiness and that sweetness because it was just blanched. And the salt and the olive oil is also going to give it some of that extra flavor. Well, thank you very much, and I hope you like this video. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.